Today we're going to talk about UK inflation. So this morning we've had the release of the latest UK inflation data, and what we've actually seen is that the rate of inflation has slightly picked up, but to some extent that's what had been expected by the market participants, although the rate is slightly higher by 0.1%. So we're currently at 3.4% inflation here in the UK. And if we actually look at what's driving those numbers and what the underlying data is showing us, well, what's really driven inflation higher is an increase in food prices within the data that we're looking at. However, if we're looking for some of the positives within the data, we've actually seen services inflation, which has been the main driver in developed market economies since the pandemic, start to cool. So that's starting to show some signs of domestic inflation cooling in the UK. So that had been 5.4, we're now down to 4.7. So that is probably one of the positives that the Bank of England would take from the meeting. One of the other risks that the Bank of England will be monitoring ahead of Thursday's meeting is just what we're seeing within energy prices. So with the conflict that we've seen in the Middle East between Israel and Iran, we've seen energy prices move higher by about 15% over that period. Now, the bank will probably view it as temporary, but may moderate their interest rate cuts. So if we look at what the market is expecting for Thursday, the market is assuming that we get no cut in interest rates from the Bank of England. However, if we look towards the back end of the year, the market is expecting that we'll see 2 further cuts come year end. Now, if we also think what's going to happen later on today in the US, we have the Federal Reserve's interest rate meeting, and what they're currently predicting is similar to what we're seeing with the Bank of England, where no interest rate cuts are expected for Wednesday, but come year end, we're expecting to see 2 further cuts in the US like we are expecting here in the UK. So please join us on Friday for our Week in Markets, where we can talk about what's happened with the Fed and also what's happened with the Bank of England.
This video is not a recommendation or personal financial advice. With investing, your capital is at risk. Investments can fluctuate in value and you may get back less than you invest.